primary ignition.
This is Star Wars.
Look out!
Core World News.
You may fire when ready.
From the bright center of the galaxy, I'm Grex Kondak, and you're listening to Core World News, your online news service providing in-depth coverage of the latest stories from around the galaxy. Now, the news segment rundown for June 8th, 2022. Old Ben's Hermit Hut. But first, the news.
All right, thank you very much, Grex. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to us today. Really, the news is episode 4 of Obi Wan Kenobi dropped today, and another wild ride. Before we get into that, Adam had a little pluggerino I think he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, some shameless self-promotion.
Let's go.
Yeah, I popped up on a podcast this week, which I had been on before. Which I don't know, it was probably 100 episodes ago that I was on it here, but it's called You Haven't Seen What? It's a movie podcast with my friends Joel and Perry. The real quick rundown of that is they watch films that the other person hasn't seen that was very important to the other one. So it's very much that relationship of like, wait, you haven't seen that movie? What's going on? And so it's really worth watching or listening to. And I was on an episode that was taped last year where we talked about the movie Zodiac. Yeah, it was during a conference for criminologists. Well, side note, that's my day job, which is weird to talk about here. But I was on as a criminologist to talk a bit about that film. I did not impart any of my scholarly ideas or understandings. I just made a couple of witty remarks throughout about the movie Zodiac. But it's definitely worth listening to. It's really fun. If you stick to the end, there's some Star Wars trivia attached to the movie Zodiac that I talk about with Perry.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Much like Star Wars, that movie has a surprising amount of VFX shots.
It does. Yeah. We talk a bit about it, but all of the blood is CGI, and you wouldn't know
I lived in the Marin area, so I love that movie.
Yeah.
And love the Bay Area dearly. So
yeah.
And it's beautifully showcased
it is.
in that film.
Yeah.
Gorgeous film. But also haunting. Like, still think about that film today.
I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. I talk about it on there, but I loved it when I was in the theater. I put it on like my top 10 list. I had not rewatched it because I was afraid my, appreciation of it would diminish over the past 10 or so years. And I rewatched it before the podcast, and I realized I think it's an even better film than I realized it was. It's beautiful. Yeah.
I just rewatched it a couple months ago. Everything's a couple months ago during the pandemic, right? Jenny's my wife's a hardcore true crime aficionado.
Oh yeah.
And I hadn't seen it in a million years, and it was great.
I just love the kind of mania in the film, and like how it's unsolved. It's kind of open ended. I remember watching like this and like A Serious Man, and like loving sort of like open ended storytelling, like after these films in particular.
It's another movie I really love.
Yeah. So very cool. I love Zodiac. Great.
But it's so if you're trying to be an Adam completist, you can listen to that. But if not, I would also suggest just listening to that podcast. They are real fun, and they talk about so many good movies. So yeah.
Awesome. You haven't seen what? Go check it out. Awesome podcast. Brad, well, shall we get on to episode 4 of Obi Wan Kenobi? Let's go.
Old Ben's Hermit Hut.
Of course I know him. He's me.
So, do people like episode 4? And I'm not sure if I'm talking about the episode Obi Wan Kenobi or the movie A New Hope, because they're kind of the same thing. That's my hot take.
I mean, it's the same.
We're on
the same
Jabim now.
damsel in
We're
distress.
safe.
Yep.
We're
And
safe
invading a Imperial base, and it's great. I loved it, but jokingly, it's episode 4.
Yeah. So like quickly, we left off with Reva, who had, I guess, found Leia at the end of that tunnel. And now we know she's taken her to Fortress Inquisitorius. And then we open with Obi in a Bacta tank.
Mm-hmm.
He's been sent to Jabim, and he's in a Bacta tank. Getting the Bacta treatment.
Yeah.
What?
And I was
It was I mean, it was dark, and it was like claustrophobic, and I was just like, no, get out of there. They're not doing the Force Skype, but it's like they can like nudge each other with the Force. There's like Anakin's nudging him with like bad thoughts.
We like pedestal down Obi's arm, burned arm, seared arm, and then we juxtaposed Anakin's, dismembered arm.
missing limb. I was so, and I really liked where this episode went, and we'll talk about it, but that was happening. I'm like, oh, here we go. We're gonna get the conversation that's all I've ever wanted in the show, and then it's teased and it goes away, which is fine.
Yeah, it's good this way.
You should have killed me when you had the chance. Yeah. Chance, great delivery on Chance in that line.
Right. Because like Obi-Wan's not with it, so he's like, I felt the terror of that moment where he's like, oh my gosh, I'm the same thing. Like I've become, poor Anakin. I'm the same thing, the same as him. And but yeah, then he just like climbs out and is like, fine. But yeah, that was wild. More Bacta. There's a lot, like oceans of Bacta in this show. Yeah, it's great. And I just
Obi in the tank. Like, you hadn't seen that, and it's nice. It feels full circle now.
It does, and makes sense in terms of the plot. Like in terms of like, I think last episode, I loved the fact that Vader threw him onto the fire. Like I thought that made so much sense for that character. And this makes sense. Like it's one of those things where I did not question the progression of that plot. Right, it makes sense that would happen.
I was hopeful the loader droid would fight Vader, and I'm guessing that won't.
I'd watch that.
Now. But
you never know. 2 more episodes.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that's what happened at the spaceport. At the landing.
We're gonna see him fight. You don't show the hammer and then don't have the droid use the hammer,
right? Yeah, Octum's hammer.
Chekhov's droid.
Octum's loader droid.
Chekhov's loader droid.
Oh, what did I say? Chekhov's. I don't know why I'm saying Octum. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a different one. Chekhov's.
Different one. Yeah, well, that's most obvious solution is a loader droid using a hammer to bash someone's head in.
The best moment for you guys can already tell my favorite moment in the entire episode. It happens right now.
I don't know. Right, like right at that point.
Well, we meet the character who's running the operation on Jabim. He's the head of operations. He's Roken, and he's played by O'Shea Jackson
Jr.
Magnificently, like
so good.
This character, love that he's not going to risk his neck for Obi-Wan. He's like, get him on the first ship out of here. Like this guy, bad news. He's just going to attract inquisitors, and we do a lot of good work for good people, and like it's just going to destroy the entire the path.
And he's spoiler alert, he's not wrong. This episode proves anything, he's not wrong.
It's tough.
Oh yeah, and especially where it's going, it's
sacrifice.
Not in a great way. But yeah, I knew we'd see Jabim. I was kind of hoping for some Jedi cameos, but
we get Coruscant name checked. This is my favorite moment in the episode. Actually hear the word Coruscant in this episode.
Yeah.
It exists, like the glimmer that was what George Lucas created in the prequels, that magnificent Ecumenopolis city world. Like it's there. Like I just feel like it was the core of those films in a big way, and it could have just been story could have gone further.
We just never see it again, except for like random glances and
vanishes.
Celebration.
Someday, because this is the first time I think they're putting their arms around the prequel trilogy, because it's like, I mean, there's more scenes here that are like direct just callbacks to the prequels. Obviously Obi-Wan underwater swimming to the castle, like
so cool. I mean, I will say this episode does the perfect marriage of prequel and original trilogy, like which is what we want from this show, right? Like this show is equidistant from episode 3 and episode 4 pretty much, and we get Obi-Wan swimming using a rebreather, and then we get Obi-Wan making a noise with the Force straight at episode 4. Like we just get both Obi-Wans in this episode.
We got all the Obi-Wan in this episode. I'm very happy with what we saw. Like the lightsaber combat looked awesome. So cool. Like, and Tala is now one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
She's so good. Yeah.
She gave me a lot of like Rogue One feel. Actually, this whole episode really felt like Rogue One to me, because of like the Empire's like infiltrators into the Imperial ranks and all that. But like even production value, it just like felt like it was that feature film. But yeah, she could slide right into that movie seamlessly, her character. But she's a lot of fun. I actually read today
I
she
was-
was.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
I read today that there was a version of the script where she was a love interest for Obi Wan Kenobi.
Oh, I was
that's
wondering
interesting.
if they were going to play around that because I got those vibes in the last.
There was a
episode
beat
that there
or
might
two.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, people are trying to kind of narrow
Just, why not?
People are trying to like kind of like pin this show down and
Yep.
box it in as to what it can do. But when you hear Obi-Wan in A New Hope say, "I'm getting too old for this sort of thing," I think he's been doing these sorts of missions, the mission to save Leia in A New Hope. I think he's been doing those sorts of missions all the time up until this point. Because he just now in that film says, "I'm getting too old to do these sort of things." Like that means he's been doing them, I imagine.
You think
Yeah.
like since
Doing
this
missions with
moment
some-
he starts just doing missions after
Yeah, I think he's been doing missions.
this? Oh, did one of you tease something on Instagram about a season 2?
Well, I think I did it in our text. I don't know if I didn't put it up on Instagram, but
Okay.
the rumor mill, and it's from relatively credible. Like I'm like tier 2 news sites, not your Esquires or that, where it's just like if it's printed there, it's directly from Lucasfilm. But like the ones that are more right than they are wrong with the rumor stuff suggested that Lucasfilm has greenlit a season 2 of this, and that they actually had to go back and do reshoots to the last episode
No.
to kind of make it a little more like a continuation could happen.
Okay.
What's interesting is that seemed to have drifted away from the internet. That's why I didn't bring it up earlier in terms of news. So that might be one of the ones that they were wrong or they just were misspeaking. But I know Ewan's talked about being up for more of this, and so I think a lot of this doesn't fit. And yeah, of course, yeah, I think he loves coming back to this. And Grant, I agree. Like this show absolutely violates what my headcanon was. And thank you for doing that, Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
Because this is much better than what my headcanon was. And it fits. And like we're 4 episodes in. Like, let's just go back on a beat on this for a second. Episode 1, he's on Tatooine. I can't leave Tatooine. I'm never leaving Tatooine. 3 episodes later, he is going into the Inquisitors.
Fortress Inquisitor.
I'm on board. Like like, yeah, this makes sense. I totally understand why Obi-Wan's doing it. That's great. That's amazing. That's good storytelling.
It's
It
perfect.
really is.
Yeah, I wish I almost didn't experience it, a few years prior in Fallen Order. Like, this was the sort of primary story where a Jedi has entanglement with the whatever Force users or Jedi, sort of fallen Jedi, remain after Order 66, because it makes sense.
Yeah,
Obi-Wan was a master, and he let all these people down. It's gonna really tie to the fall of the Republic in the Jedi Order in a fun way. That's poetic, and it's exciting. That's why I love him here in this episode. It's fitting. I love this infiltration. It feels so Obi-Wan. And then the droids, these like new droids we see in the halls and the subterranean sort of like level.
Oh yeah, like the
seeker droids.
Seeker droids,
seeker
like
droids.
mini
I think
probe,
that's the
mini probe droids.
Yeah, I think those are the same droids we see animated in Rebels.
But they're patrolling the halls, and it makes me
Yeah.
feel like later on he's sort of unaware of them, and I almost feel like it's smart to have droids sort of like as security, because Jedi can't sense their movement.
them. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
I
that's
felt
actually
that was
brilliant, yeah.
terrifying in that regard, because like Obi-Wan, it is tough for Jedi to fight droids. There are certain aspects to fighting droids that are very, I think, difficult for Jedi.
Yeah.
Remember, so I was going to mention this at the end of our last episode, but we were already like on an hour and 45 minutes or something. But do you remember when we were doing predictions for this, and I was like, well, we'll probably only see a really tight room with some backlit black panels, and that'll be Fortress Inquisitorius. It's like I thought we I was wrong about it.
Ben's streak is ended.
Yeah. Yep. No, they're like, nope, you're getting like they did such a good job. First of all, with the hangar. I mean, we see 3 rooms. We see the hangar bay, which is awesome. And then, I mean, we get the hallways, and they're like, you see the ocean, you're underwater. That's cool.
Yep.
And then we get the conference room, which I just noticed in this episode, it's decorated with lightsabers on the
really?
on the
I
windowsill.
didn't notice that. That's amazing. Must be the
Yeah.
Jedi. Yeah.
All the fallen Jedi. It's like that's how they decorate it. They're not on like pedestals or anything. That's why it looks weird. It looks like they could just be ridges, but you can definitely see if you look behind, they're lightsabers.
Oh, super cool.
I wonder why there's so much foot traffic there, though, because it does feel like heavily populated. And
It's
that was
very
always,
busy.
Yes.
It's very dense and densely populated. And I was like the Death Star has a lot of people moving around in A New Hope. Like, there's definitely a lot of people walking around, but like this has like,
but that
three
makes
times the amount of people.
Yeah.
But like the Death Star makes sense because it's like a traveling space station, so you need a population on there for whatever. Like this just seems like I didn't think there was a lot of business going on here other than the Inquisitors, but apparently,
right,
it's like a full function base that has a lot going on.
Yeah, in the comics, we don't really see too many bystanders. We just sort of see the like training room and Vader and the Inquisitorius, and that's pretty much it. So
I mean, it's plot reasons.
ADs need jobs too, guys. All right.
Yeah, totally.
This episode also did an amazing job of, speaking of just random people, of just like stormtrooper casual conversation. Like when they're walking by Obi-Wan and he's like, "This place is creepy." Oh, well, don't worry. I hope we get assigned somewhere else soon. It's one of my favorite. Stormtrooper exchanges.
That's
I was just
fantastic.
chuckling.
I totally missed that. You caught it because of the subtitles. Huh?
And it was chuckling, and it was just great. Like it was just casual Stormtrooper banter.
So good.
That's great, man. I want to go back to the Fallen Order thing because it's like, it's weird how like. I mean, for people who have played the game, like, and it's just never acknowledged the event that happened before. Like, I just want a throwaway line, like just a line to just say it happened. But I feel like the script is so lean and so tight that if
there's a moment where I think the fifth brother is like she almost destroyed the fortress, and Vader could have been like, it's been destroyed, like
it's been destroyed before. Yeah.
It will be destroyed.
Or
again.
you couldn't
like,
just
whatever.
had
Vader do a throwaway thing, like I don't know, just a nod to the game, because he shreds like the lower levels of this fortress in the game.
Yeah, in the game, it's like the whole thing. And I looked at some of the old artwork from it before, and it's completely different underneath. It's like not this big square obelisk thing. It's like kind of, it has, it's like more a suspended castle where that goes underwater. So, and there's a lot of other outbuildings and stuff. So it's like, again, this is like a super nerdy thing we had a conversation off air about, but it's like, it's just, I don't even want to infringe on the canon. Like,
people viewing this, it's so perfect. It's so wonderful. Like, I love this storyline for Obi-Wan, makes so much sense. And then you see the sort of dark heart of what's underneath this obelisk. It's terrifying. Like I was just to see these Jedi frozen in amber in what looks like carbonite, but it's just this translucent
yellow fluid.
I mean, the last time I saw anything that was frozen and something like that, they extracted DNA to make dinosaurs, right? So this is clearly part of like Palpatine's
cloning.
I'm gonna start making strand classed clones.
Where's the cloning show, guys? Like, I want to know what's going on. Where like we saw that lab in Mando.
Mando. They keep talking about it. It's here. It's gonna happen.
I think the actor that played the cloner is has been recast for season 3. So
I thought I heard that he was. Just to back about this, the kind of connecting Fallen Order is just like, it would be super easy to do that with even just a throwaway line with the stormtroopers chatting like, wow, the security's tight here. And then someone's like, oh yeah, because
did you hear what happened?
Did you hear about the last time a Jedi came? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, or even afterwards be like, 2 Jedis? Really? Like, can we get better security in this place? They keep blowing up the place.
Didn't think another Jedi would try like to bypass security.
Yeah. Just something. Yeah. I agree. Like, connect it. Just
you can do it in a way.
Let's just
draw a line for the fans.
Throw away. Yeah.
That no one will notice except the people who play the game.
Only the people who play that game will notice. Yeah. It's really not a big deal. So let's just continue on as if that doesn't matter.
No, let's spend another 45 minutes on it.
But that's the thing is, I think it's because the script is so lean.
It is.
It's like they can't even mention something like that without people expecting to see another Jedi.
Yeah.
It's like if they reference it, then if there is going to be Cal Kestis at this at some point, which I don't think there's room for now.
No.
Then it would be too much of a flag being like, he's coming.
Yeah, they're really thinking about every single word that anyone utters in this thing. And like, again, it's so masterfully crafted where like for just lightsabers, for example, the first time he sees a stormtrooper, he takes him out hand to hand. The next time he uses his lightsaber just like in the dark, a couple of quick hits. And I'm just like, oh, come on. Like, just can we? And then it just every time he encounters more foes, he uses a lightsaber more and more and more and more. It's such a great build in this episode of just Obi-Wan lightsaber use.
Even in the interrogation room when the lights go out, it takes him 4 slashes to beat down the first one and 2 on the second. Mm-hmm. And he's like, like he's just slowly getting more and more proficient with what he's doing. And that
I want to rewind it real quick on the interrogation because what do you guys think of sort of the Reva interrogating Leia scene before she even takes her down to the lower levels or wherever that is with the big apparatus? What do you guys think of those scenes when Reva's like sort of like grilling her, trying to get her to talk? Mind probe happens. She can't break in Leia's mind.
Is this a staring contest?
Yeah, but Vader tries it too, and Vader fails in A New Hope.
Yep. Yeah.
So it just felt like a New Hope mirror, actually. Like that entire part felt like Reva was just learning all the same, things that Vader learns in A New Hope, which is Leia's very strong, is a very intelligent, strong character.
I would say
mind doesn't work.
I want to push back on the mirror thing, just for my own headcanon, because I want to say it's more of a dry run. When Obi-Wan steps onto the Death Star, he's supremely confident, and you're just going into the belly of the beast. But it's like, this makes sense because he's done it before. Like, he's infiltrated Imperial strongholds before. And then same thing with Leia when she's just like, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? She's just like, well, captured again. And she's been actually captured probably countless times with the Princess of Alderaan novel and all that. She gets
that's right.
No, I agree. I love, who is it? Vivian Lyra Blair, right? That's the actress who's portraying Leia in this, or actor, I should say, who's playing, portraying Leia in this. Is that she just, it's one of the best kid performances where I can see her growing into Carrie Fisher. Like, they just wrote it so well in her delivery, and it just feels like Leia. It's just great.
Yeah.
And there's a moment later that I almost cried at, and we can talk about that. It's an Obi-Wan Leia moment where I'm like, I didn't know this needed to happen, but it needed to happen, and more for Obi-Wan than anyone else. But we'll talk about that later. But
Oh yeah. There's the end of this this episode. It will just pull at the heartstrings harder than I think any episode of Star Wars streaming I've seen.
Yeah.
Again, with Leia's playing like a really great cat and mouse game with Reva.
Yeah.
And and she's like crocodile tears, and like I didn't get it, but Reva did. She's like, what are you doing? And I actually thought that Leia seems to know when people are lying and like able to read people. So I'm surprised she thought that Obi-Wan was actually dead. But I thought they were sort of sparring back and forth there. And then ultimately at the end, when she's like, oh, well, if we're all on the same side, like that's a very Leia moment.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'll just tell my father, because like she just totally busted Reva.
She talks so much smack to Tarkin and Vader in A New Hope that it's like, of course, like an Inquisitor, like of course she's going to talk about it.
A big deal. But that's the thing too. But I don't know what's going on with Reva, and we'll talk more about this as the series progresses.
Yeah, this is fascinating. She is grilling Leia, and then when Leia's like, I'll need to talk to my father first. I need to get my phone call. Reva's like, basically freaks out, and she's like, well, try a little harder, and like screams at her and stuff. Is really just pushing her. And then it's only when we get down to that interrogation chamber where she's about to she's like, say something, and like screaming.
You're doing this. I'm not doing this. You're doing
this. I'm not doing this. About to press the button. I don't think she can press that button.
No, exactly. That's what I got from that scene.
That's what,
right?
Yeah, is that we all get the same read, right? I was like, she cannot press the button. Like, she's just not dark side. She's a Jedi. Yeah.
Which
she's
is
Kylo Renning it.
Yeah. It's just so subtle of them to do it that way, where she's just like, I don't know. I mean, there's so many scenes where she seems like an unredeemable character. But there are just these moments where she has a weakness. It was like the flinch when Vader was killing children, and then, having to actually hurt a child herself. I think this is going to tie back to Yeah.
The temple. That's
Order
her weak
66.
point.
Yeah. Where she just can't do it to kids.
And it's making me. I still do not ever want to watch that scene again from last week. Don't need to ever see it again. I'm good. Again,
I think we are going back to that scene.
I think we are too. But I think, and I don't have a problem with it.
Which scene?
Where he snaps the kid's neck. With Vader, which I'm like, I don't have a It's not like I'm sitting here going, they shouldn't have done that. Like, it's not my thing. It just, I find it supremely upsetting, as I should.
I thought you were talking about Order 66. I'm sorry.
No, but I think that as well, right? I think all of those scenes are now. I'm like, okay, like I'm getting this. Like, she clearly has issues around kids, which makes sense because a Jedi killed all of her, Kresh mates. Like, where I'm like, this is really good storytelling. It's hard, it's difficult to watch, but it's within characters and it makes sense. And so I'm appreciating this like, that's clearly her Achilles heel is our children.
Yeah. Actually, Grant, you I think it was you that brought up a good point right before we started taping, and I don't want to miss it. When you saw the kid in amber underneath, or the youngling in amber. Do you remember this?
Was that a good point? I thought that was just a visual point I was making, given it looks as if he's a kid, a youngling from the scene in Revenge of the Sith where Anakin, enters the room and ignites it. It just looks like it's someone who just saw Anakin. He looks terrified, and that was the most haunting thing to see in Amber.
Yeah.
I was like, is this episode really gonna show me like each character? I couldn't identify most of the characters. I think they're just characters from unexplored.
Just a random Jedi character.
The thing you said that resonated with me was that it gives context to Reva's decision. It was like, either she can go this path and go as evil as she possibly can, or she could be that kid in the amber. Like, it would have just been her in the amber, killed. And it just gives it some physical context to her play.
Yeah, so, survival. She's surviving.
Yeah, she's a survivor. Yeah.
And we might get a call back to that kid at some point.
This episode,
are those people dead for sure, or can we free them? Is there any way to free them? Maybe
I was wondering the same thing.
Unclear. Yeah, they definitely could be frozen in, as you mentioned, like whatever this other form of carbonate is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the first one we spend some time on is Terra Sanubi. I know we mentioned his name, but that's the alien creature just to his left as he walks in, and that guy was 1,000,000 years old in the Clone Wars. I don't know how he's faring in there, but it'd be kind of funny. But he had a couple great episodes with Ahsoka. He had a good arc there. And, we don't really know. I mean, it could be Quinlan Voss. It could be, I don't know. We got a lot of faces.
I'm surprised we didn't get like a major reveal in that scene. And I guess they were more going for him seeing a youngling, which totally works. But I literally sat forward when that scene started. Like the second I saw that there were like Jedi in those things, as I was eating my turkey burger, and Carly was my wife was staring at me. I was sitting forward, and I'm like, I sat back. She's like, "What?" I'm like, "Nothing." Like nothing. It is fine. It's good.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think which Jedi survived Order 66. Like, not many of them made it.
No, not that
Quinlan definitely would. You know, I feel like Mace would, but I don't know. It was a big drop.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, where is the Mace story? Because I feel like that is a kind of a comic story or something. We can't do that. That's another episode. That's a different episode. But I would love to talk about that one day. Is the gaming out what happens to Mace after it flies out that window?
Yeah,
gladly.
It's gonna happen eventually.
I'm pretty sure we've talked about it line by line, piece by piece over 241 episodes. But
sure.
There's even an episode where we played audio of Samuel L. Jackson on some late night show talking about wanting to come back on to Star Wars.
Oh yeah. No,
that was back in the before times. We were all together in your dining room.
I think they just need a writer because he's down, and or maybe it's Pablo's like, nope, he's dead.
Maybe right.
Yeah,
it's quite
the thing with Plo Koon, maybe.
It's just lightning. Lightning doesn't like paralyze you. Couldn't he just like grab a ledge somewhere? Like,
yes,
I don't know, pull himself.
Or just stop himself with the Force, like he's
just use the Force as you fall and you slow.
He lost a hand and got some lightning. Darth Maul got chopped in half and lived. Like,
I
there's
know,
no
that's what's
way
upsetting
that
about
he's not still
And
alive.
Mace Windu, I would argue, is probably the more experienced veteran, sort of like force wielder, force user.
Yeah. The thing is he's so strong. It's just like you'd have to create an amazing story arc to have him
That's the problem.
not do anything. Like, of
Right.
course, he would reconnect with Obi Wan Kenobi and Yoda. It's like really hard to give him this parallel storyline.
I'm guessing that you get a lot of pitches because I'm guessing people come and pitch Mace Windu stories all the time, and they always revolve because you've hit the nail on the head. That's the issue, right? Is that this is just not most of the other surviving Jedi stories we've gotten, other than Yoda and Obi-Wan, who clearly have like these other missions going on, why they can't be out there, are like surviving younglings or like, like people who aren't like major Jedi. Because then you have that, you're absolutely right. Like, why isn't he out there doing something? Why don't we know the story? So I think a lot of the pitches has probably been, I don't know, amnesia. And that just feels like a 1980s show. Yeah. Like, it's tough, right?
Because it's like, how long is it going to take him to get his memory back? And then when it's back, it's like, well, of course he's going to plug himself into the rebellion and like try and fight the Senate again.
And if he did, he would be the leader of the rebellion. Like, he would be there in episode. Like, it feels. I think that's the type of show that would feel so forced, where this show just doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's not me. Don't worry. I'm not trying to talk us out of a Mace Windu show. I just don't know how to do it.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Well, you just go back. It's a prequel, like you go.
Yeah,
back
that's the other thing you can do.
Younger,
yep. 100%. Which I would watch that show happily. Like, more. We need some pre-episode 1 TV shows. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
Fun. That's some fun Jedi diplomacy.
Give us a young Obi-Wan, young Qui-Gon show.
That might be happening. I've heard rumors as well.
Yeah.
That might be happening. Or Liam Neeson, Dooku, Qui-Gon sort of show.
Love it. Please.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how bad Obi-Wan is at disguises? Because one,
Big Code Obi-Wan? You didn't like Big Code Obi-Wan?
No, it just looked horrible. Well, Carly was just like, I'm just surprised they didn't have Leia sit on his shoulders and then like do the a couple of kids in a trench coat gag. Like, that would have been
soiled robes. You don't like soiled robes, guys? It's like every episode. It's just like, you look like a Jedi, and your clothes also need a wash. Like, Tico was right. Like,
you need a shower. You smell like rotting meat. Actually, I was really surprised when he took out the first stormtrooper after he pops up through the like water vent.
Yeah,
that he didn't put on stormtrooper.
100%, right?
Yeah, but I think that would have been too exactly like
episode 4.
New Hope.
Yeah.
It was so good though, like just him sneaking around.
I know. I was so happy.
Sneaking past stormtroopers, and then eventually finding Leia, pulling out the saber, taking out those 2 troopers with his saber. That felt like he was just warming up. Like, it doesn't feel like he's been training either. He's kind of not honing his abilities and doing that slow, much needed work to gain your force abilities back and sort of meditate and really, really, practice with your saber again and align yourself. Like, he hasn't done any of that stuff. He's just swinging away, and it's like, but it's coming back in the action. It feels like character development in the action.
It's great. It's so good. And like, it's like playing a video game. Have you guys ever taken a long break from a video game and come back to it? Totally. Like, I'll do that in Red Dead Redemption ever so often and come back like 6 months later, and I'm like, I'm just gonna throw myself into the hard mission. And like, that's it. Like, it's just like the crucible of fire, right? Like, it's like I have to be in this high stress, high danger thing. And my muscle memory comes back, right? About, oh yeah, this is how I do this, this is how I do that. Like, same thing with him. And I feel like I just love that I said this, I think last episode, they're giving us everything they wanted. I wanted him to be really bad at fighting Vader, like really rusty. We got that. And this episode, amongst all the other reasons for the plot, was really just giving him practice to get better at it. And so the next time he's fighting Vader, I totally buy if he's holding his own now after this episode. It's great.
I'd love to see some, like, in the next episode, some like him going through forms, a little Jedi Tai Chi.
Yeah.
That'd
like
be
just awesome.
Like,
agreed.
Like,
when he's on a ship, why not?
And maybe he like alters his form. He tries to do the old form, but it doesn't quite work right. And so he gets into a different form that becomes, you know, a little
My
more
body has grown
Kurosawa-esque.
stiff. I must use a different form.
Yeah, yeah, and he's just like, there it is.
I want to see him
because-
assume the old pose with the two fingers.
Two fingers,
I
yeah.
need
Yeah.
that basically. I don't know if that happens. I'll be
Risu?
very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Might happen.
that'd
We
be
might get it.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic. But he does, you know, he's sort of rusty, hitting the bolts back at the stormtroopers that are pursuing them through the sort of sub levels. You know, Tala's distracted Reva for that time. That Obi-Wan finds Leia in the interrogation room, breaks her out. They run down the halls. I think you get a purge trooper in this episode.
yes,
Yeah.
you do get a purge trooper, and I was like, actually, Jenny again, always asking the pertinent questions. She's like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "I think it's like a special trooper for this." And I was like, then I racked through my memory, and I was like, "Oh, they're purge troopers." Yeah.
Yep.
That was pretty cool. Nice to get that tie-in from the games to the live-action show.
We get a
So
couple
that was
actually.
the Fallen Order tie-in, which is kind of fun.
I mean, it's all a Fallen Order tie-in, but it just like needs a quick nod.
Right. Yeah. Just
I know,
call it
not
out.
it needs. I need a quick nod
Yeah.
personally, or would like it. But yeah,
But yeah,
it's-
then they shut the doors and he's the glass shatters after a few bolts hit the glass. One trooper, I think the purge trooper, is like trying to like fit his blaster through the door and like fire a few bolts in there at Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's smacking those back, and you feel like Obi-Wan's proficiency is just growing in that episode.
Yep.
Like, just
Yes.
getting better and better and better.
I just
Yeah.
It's pretty
because
cool.
I wasn't really sure he was holding the water back. I felt like he might have actually been force cracking it more, and then at the end
Yes.
he rips out every panel.
I think he was. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was. It was
Yeah,
cracking
agreed.
more because I saw the force sort of waves.
Yeah.
I don't want to undersell, just back to the purge troopers for a second, because I just wanted to verify this. Like, they've literally only appeared in the video games and the comics, and that's awesome, right? Like that they took that design out of video games and comics and decided to make it live action. Like, I love when they do those little nods. Yeah.
Yeah. All full
Yeah.
circle. The circle is now complete.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was my last note, was Purge Trooper, that we hadn't got to. We even got to Big Coat. That was
Yeah.
the Big Coat gag, which I was like, is this gonna actually work? But I was there for it. I was like, there.
Yeah.
This is
Wait,
insane.
Yeah, Obi smuggling Leia out under his coat was like
Yeah.
maybe the most conspicuous thing I've ever seen in my entire
Yeah,
life.
but like
It's
somehow they did it, and they're both like, the look on their faces like, this is never gonna work. This is never gonna work.
Yeah. I guess, we got chaos reigning, and
the fifth
a lot of people
brother
running
like
around.
walks right by them.
By them,
like,
yeah.
sent
Yeah.
away.
I got a couple other random notes. The first is, what did a mouse droid ever do to you?
Right, poor mouse droid.
Yeah.
Wait,
we also get-
what was the fate of the mouse droid? Because I did see it go riding parallel with them when they were walking.
Yeah, it was
one of them
actually
just
fine. It
guns
just
them
got-
down.
Wait, what?
One of them just blasts them away. Just shoots the
Shoots the
mouse
mouse
droid.
droid. Oh well,
Yeah.
it hit off the top, right, and then it's on fire and it rides away.
Oh, Obi
Yeah.
takes out a stormtrooper at the end of this action sequence who is just walking the landing pads and isn't paying attention to the action at all.
Yep.
This stormtrooper is not paying attention to
Nope.
anything that's happening.
Yeah, I caught that too.
And
Just
he
like,
just
gets
smokes.
and then boom, done. Yeah.
He's like, and you too.
You got to. It's that last one too. I think it's the very last stormtrooper.
Yeah, I love the consistency of blasters they used. Tala has she puts down her E11 like trooper blaster and picks up a SE11 officer blaster.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she's
I
got-
caught that too. Because it's funny because I made a noise when she put down the blaster because I'm like, what is she doing? And then she picked up the other one, and Carla's like, "What?" I'm like, "Nothing. Don't worry about it." Like another one. Like, I'll tell you later. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Yeah, I don't want to waste
That was
your
like the
time.
10th time you've done that during the episode.
They were like 4 times. I thought she was gonna be like, "Can I just watch this on my own, please?" No.
Yeah. Right. The
I don't know.
SE11 is a much superior blaster, by the way.
Yes.
And actually, Obi-Wan got a different blaster. He looked like one of the ones that like Krennic was using. It looks like a 6-shooter.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think it was an SE11 like classic blaster. He got a different one.
That was fun
maybe one he
seeing
brought with
Obi with the Imperial hat on, the little
Yeah.
officer hat on. I was like, what?
It looked so wrong. He's like
so
hair
wrong.
sticking
And
Right?
out.
it's so
It's
yeah,
so
so
weird.
strange. Yeah.
Yeah. We also get the snow speeders, as I always call them, but the T-47s. Yeah. Which, like, once again, sound design, like that just reminds me of my childhood. Just hearing those noises, just because that's my favorite. Like one of my favorite sequences in all of Star Wars is just the snow speeders on Hoth. I just love that sound. Good. It's so good.
Their engine noise.
I know, it's amazing.
Iconic.
Yeah. We also haven't talked about Vader at all in this episode, which is weird. We actually got some more Vader in this episode.
Yeah.
Not doing a ton.
It's fun though. You do get him kind of like stomping down the hallway, shaky cam.
Yep.
He's furious.
Because everyone knows it's coming when they get away. You know, when the rebels get away, it's like, oh, you are in trouble, girl.
So how do you feel that apparently Vader got the idea, or Tarkin, I can't remember who did it in episode 4, to let the Millennium Falcon go and leave a thing from Reva.
Right.
This episode was just episode 4. Can we just all admit that and move on?
It was a dry run for everybody.
It was. It was A New Hope, but
which I just love. All joking aside, it was wonderful, and I just think they did such a good job without really ham-fisting it. Does that make sense? Like, where it's just like it's subtle enough, but like when you sat down at the end, I was like, "Wait a minute, you tricked me."
Yeah, they're like, "We better make this episode 4."
Yeah, that's what I love. That's my favorite part. Is if it wasn't episode 4, I don't think I'd be commenting on. But like, you made episode 4 episode 4. Like, I just want like slow clap.
It's beautiful. I love Fortress Inquisitorius as just a location, so that was super fun. I love seeing the Scythe, their ship, like the Inquisitor's ship. It's just always in the background in that shot, and I was like, I love that ship. Like, Krennic's transport will always be my favorite ship ever. Like I think in all the films, it's just my favorite ship.
Yeah. Also, speaking of, we've mentioned Krennic enough. Imagine if we got a Krennic.
Yeah,
cameo. He's around. He's doing his thing.
That'd be great. Ben Mendelsohn.
Ben Mendelsohn he's doing a lot of really quality prestige streaming shows. This is just another one. I'm sure he'd be up for it.
Oh, what's actually kind of funny is I saw an interview with him, and he said I'd only do it if Mads Mikkelsen does it as well.
Okay, sure.
That's it was a weird caveat. I'm like, wait a second, they could both be with together. Actually.
Wait, can we? Yeah, because he's still. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, 100%. Do it.
What if it's Vader though? He would do it if it's Vader.
Well. Also, I am
think
sure
he would do it if it's a background shot or
or Tarkin,
a scene.
I'm also laughing as if Ben Mendelsohn has a choice, because I'm sure his contract has him on board for at least 3 more appearances.
Maybe, yeah. Who knows? I'm sure he'd be down, but it would be like if it got us Mads Mikkelsen also, like, even better.
Yeah. How do you not want to reprise that role? Because that's like, I don't know how you so quickly become a classic Star Wars character. Like, Krennic to me is like just top notch, one of the best Star Wars characters.
Krennic's pretty high up there in terms of rank, because he has like his own like squad of Death Troopers or whatever. Like, that's who gets that. I didn't see any officers walking around Fortress Inquisitorius with their own sort of like unit,
Yeah, and he's a weird sort of offshoot, like where he looks like an admiralty, but he's a director, and he's like not quite to admiral, and he's like trying
to DARPA of the Empire.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like trying to weasel his way in. But yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But I don't know. I just love Vader storming through the hallways. And I really thought Reva was done for there. I thought.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, she gets lifted up, and like it almost seems like it's going to be a choke or something's happening.
Yeah, she starts doing the Force choke move.
Then she's like, I'm tracking their ship. Like, I put a tracker on their ship. And we'll not only know where Obi Wan is, we'll also learn where the path is, where this network is.
Yeah. That's
giving safe harbor to people who are being hunted by the Empire. So. Now I'm terrified for the path and Jabim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jabim.
Yeah.
Jabim.
Yeah. I'm terrified for Jabim at this point.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see kind of like exterior of that planet. We kind of just were interior that entire
time.
I'm interested to
weird.
see what that planet
It's
looks
true.
like.
I hope we get more. I like that location.
I hope it's an
I also,
asteroid.
yeah, right. It feels like that.
I
I just
heard it was a world where like it's constantly raining, and there were battles during the Clone Wars there. I guess. Yeah.
I think I remember the comment I was going to make, and it's rehashing an old comment, but I don't think this is the show where we get random throw in Galen Erso and director Krennic.
no,
It's
agree.
just too tight
Yeah.
a show, right? They don't want you distracted by these other sort of things, like, and here they are, like they're
TV's
the only place I
antithesis
could see those
of
characters
Mandalorian
is
season
like
2.
I can
They'd
see
have
those
to be
characters like
watched.
season 3 of Andor. If it's like towards the end,
Yeah.
maybe Andor.
Yeah.
I could see those characters being a fun reveal.
When you have 24 episodes as opposed to 6,
Yeah.
right? Like which I'm fine. Like I don't need any of that. Like this show is completely captivating me, and there's enough little Star Wars nuggets and just like whatever. It's just sometimes I feel like they can't help themselves, and I'm glad they're helping them. Not they are stopping themselves from doing that with restraint. I think it works in The Mandalorian because The Mandalorian is such a different show. It's such a serialized popcorn flick show that you can get away with that. This feels like prestige Star Wars.
Right. And also, like, your main character in The Mandalorian is not a main character. Like, our main characters are Obi Wan Kenobi and Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker, like, and Darth Vader. Like, it's we're getting little quotes of the past and the TK-47s and the Purge Troopers.
Yeah.
But
it all just makes it feel like a connected universe as opposed to like fan service, right? Like it's just great. And the other thing I just want to mention, I remember when we were talking about Jaban, and Tala, just when they get back, and after we lose Wade, such a weird Star Wars name, but
tough Star Wars
she says to Sully.
Wade.
She says to Sully, and you're not, it's something like, well, you're fighters now. Or you said you weren't,
you're
fighters now.
You're soldiers, yeah.
You're soldiers now. And this is what I love. Like, I love this era of just like, this is the rebellion. Like, their hands are being forced to become this insurgency, right? Like, I don't think the path was ever militarized, was never meant to do that. And then this is forcing their hand. And this is how the rebellion grows, is through little things like this.
Yeah.
Tala,
just like that. The delivery of that line is perfect.
Yeah. It's so good.
She's
It doesn't feel.
It
really doesn't feel like cold or heartless. It just feels like just a line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
He's like, this
tight
is not your sector. I cannot let you through. And she's like, I'm a superior officer. Like, you will address me as sir or whatever. And he's like, oh yes, sir, of course. And then she's like, I have classified information. Do you know what classified means? Like, the guy's just like put in his place.
Yeah.
She's so good.
And she just holds her own with Reva. There's a moment where, like, she goes, "Just admit you're a spy," and Tala's just like, "Of course I am." Like, and that whole back and forth. There was a moment. It was so that those sentences were so well constructed. Where I was just halfway through that, going, "Wait,
yeah,
is she a double agent?" Like, I almost started to like buy it. Like, she was so good at delivering those lines. And then this next line, I'm like, okay, no, she's just really like just figuring out like that whole, the best lie is conveniently hidden between two truths type of thing, which is great.
I do feel bad for the people of Florum though, because they were
they were in a bad place. Yeah.
I was so worried when Reva was questioning Leia that she was gonna say, they're on Dantooine.
Dantooine never gets a break.
Yep.
Dantooine's like, this is the third inspection this rotation.
Well, I think
and then you just get these messages.
Can you Dantooine right now?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's because they go there and it's been abandoned for a long time, I think. But it's just like I can just imagine them messaging back, Leia, can you please stop telling people
Dantooine ambassadors?
Like,
phoning court.
It's the 8th time this month.
That is funny. Robot Chicken, was that a Robot Chicken episode?
It sure sounds like it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had a flashback to Robot Chicken. It happens. All right. Welp. Then of course we're getting to the scene that you were talking about earlier, Adam, where I mean they're busted up about Wade. More so than other Star Wars things. It's like usually, a good soldier went down. They're like, we weren't soldiers. We were peacekeepers.
Oh, there were 3 of us. Now there are 2 of us.
They were American.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
Yeah.
The sort of cost of war that I feel like is a pretty big theme in like The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And in a war that I don't think they realized they were in. Like that's what I love about this is like they weren't warriors, they were resistance, and then now they are. Like I think it's amazing.
It's Rogue One, right? It's a movie where it was the ultimate like sacrifice for the greater good. Ultimate mission.
I hope we get a lot more Roken in the next couple episodes.
Ice Cube Jr.
He's great.
He's so good.
I love O'Shea Jackson. He's so good. He was so fun because he was just super real. Like he felt like he brought a sort of reality that like Han kind of brings in the original trilogy. This sort of like feels grounded with that character.
Grounded a part of the world.
It's because it's not so like Mon Mothma and you know the other Draven and like these dire sort of British, you know, people who kind of are like the Empire. It's like kind of a different. For me, it's like it just feels like a really grounded, you know, great leader for this small contingent, the Path. And I'm just excited because like we have Enfys Nest now, we have Roken, we have obviously Mon Mothma and Bail, and then Saw, and then I'm trying to think of like these leaders of these different little, you know,
factions,
rebellions.
Right. Harrison Dula.
And so Roken is now in there, and I really think this is a fun character. I hope this character.
I like the character.
I hope he makes
they could do a show with the character afterwards.
I would love that, like a rebellion, like proto rebellion show would be great. And just like
he could show up in Andor.
Yeah, he totally could. You just get his background story too, and it's just a couple sentences in a very Star Warsy way of just like the second always like you don't know what they're capable of. I was like Obi Wan.
Yeah, and then his wife was a Jedi, and you're just like immediately heartbroken. His character's informed You immediately understand who he is. He's someone who's
in just a couple
saving
sentences.
Force sensitives because the love of his life.
Yeah, the Imperial took his wife from him, and that was one of those things where like we saw the Inquisitorius, like we saw the people in like Frozen. I was just sitting there going, "Is that his wife? Was that his wife?" Like just
We do see a woman for a little bit. We do hang on a woman, a shot of a woman for a little bit. Yeah, it's just this one woman. The youngling, this one woman, and then Tara Sanubi are kind of the only shots that we kind of like linger on.
And then a weird, like super buff dude.
Yeah, but I feel like we're over the shoulder at that point. We're kind of like over the shoulder for that one. But I didn't think that one is like super important. I was like,
no, it was
thought
very
that
quick
could
flash.
have been Quinlan Voss with a shaved head or something, like because he's wearing furs, which I think Quinlan Voss did. But again, grasping at straws. I think the person
that makes sense.
The first person you see on the left as you come in looks like more like Quinlan Voss because it has like the dreads and
I thought that.
More classic Quinlan. But
also, I don't think they're going to be of consequence to the story. Like I doubt.
No. We'll never see or hear him again.
I bet. I don't know. It'll probably just be like we'll be forever guessing, you know, because they're mentioning all these lost Jedi, and we saw all these lost Jedi,
or they're backwards canon them. Right, which
I'm
is
surprised
funny too.
Like, Cal Kestis wouldn't appear in this show. Like Obi Wan Kenobi, like reaching out to him, maybe like creating that new like these rogue Jedi sort of like initiative to like do whatever missions for the Path or whatever rebel groups are out there. Yeah, I don't know.
It would be actually really cool if that happened and then it happened in the game, and you kind of know what's going to happen, but it's a quick interaction, and you're just like, well, that was a dead end. And like then he goes off again, just sort of ricochets off Obi-Wan's plot line.
Love it.
But
who of any character, what in all of the canon, are there any characters we want to see in these last two episodes that we haven't seen yet? Is there anyone other than Vader? Because obviously it's gonna be a Vader heavy, but are we gonna get Padme?
Yeah.
We get like, is Natalie Portman in like a secret cameo? Is like, are there any is obviously Liam Neeson, I think, is coming back, right?
I think we're gonna get Liam. I think we're gonna get both. I think we're gonna get both sides of the coin. I think we're gonna get Liam and we're gonna get the Emperor.
That's great. Yeah, Ian McDiarmid seems like he would love, and he's just he was.
I don't think there's anything else he wants in the world other than to just be the Emperor all day, every day.
You're right. Yeah, I think you're right there because someone has to like tell Vader to stop chasing Obi-Wan.
Part of me wonders if this series does not end with cutting back and forth between our two protagonists, or our main protagonist and main antagonist, talking to their master.
Yeah.
Right, debriefing after whatever this final encounter is. They're like, Emperor is like, why do you chase this ghost?
Yeah.
He's of no consequence to us. And then like,
actually, it could be the opposite, because when does the Emperor in the comics discovers Luke Skywalker's presence through the Force? But does that happen after Empire Strikes Back? I think it does now.
Remember, like, I don't think he's aware of who Luke is.
Remember, like, he has that supervision, and he's like, "This is the only threat to me." Is actually
Luke.
I think it must happen later, because if he was tell him to keep going.
It's either after episode 4 or episode 5 in that, because it's in that main run, I think, right, or in the Vader run.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's really good. I don't know.
Palpatine's hubris might just be like, bring him to me because I'm going to convert him and make him like my apprentice, and he's a much stronger apprentice. But I think he was like legit afraid. They're like, this is the only person that can topple you, which makes more sense in the whole like Oedipus mythology.
But it also makes sense what Grant's saying is that his whole thing is like, why are you bothering with this old Jedi man? Like he can't hurt us, because he doesn't realize he's training or going to be training the next.
Vader could also end up in like a state of disrepair at the end of the season too, right? And
which I think is
who does he end up with when that happens? It's the Emperor, right? Like the Emperor must be like, you fool, like you couldn't take your old master, like he hasn't probably picked up a lightsaber in 10 years, like, and you still couldn't, trying to twist the knife even further,
you make pathetic weakling
even more angry and furious.
That's what I'm rooting for. I want to see a good old fashioned smackdown by Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
because we're getting it. It's been a fast build since we first saw him, and I don't know. I'm still hopeful that we can actually get a dominant W out of Obi-Wan.
I think we might. I feel a little better about it now as we're moving forward in the series.
Anything else could break canon. So I don't know.
I think they might fight in the rain, because if Jabim is a raining planet, they're tracking them there.
Yeah.
If it's in the rain, I don't know. Here's the thing. This is going to be my I'm going to rant about Pacific Rim, the movie that no one remembers. But let's not have a fight in the dark in the rain, because that's
what's the ideal set piece for this final fight.
It always screams to me of trying to hide bad CGI. It always feels that way, right? Like I loved in the 3rd episode of this season, Vader and and Obi-Wan quote unquote fighting. I would almost not even use that, but because it was like using horror movie elements. But I like in this episode when we saw him kicking butt with a lightsaber, it was in well lit areas, right? Like not like bright, like not like middle of the day, but like, so you can have it rainy, just be like rainy during dusk, not midnight. Like, because I'd love to see like like water sizzling off the lightsaber.
Me too. I love when it hisses.
Yeah, that's a good call, Grant. Like I thought it was interesting. I had forgotten that Nur was actually in the Mustafar system, which makes sense. He's not going to put.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I don't think I knew that at all ever. But it makes
having
sense.
A water moon on a lava planet is pretty poetic, balanced, if you will.
Something I've dreamed about for a long time. It could be incorporated in this episode. I doubt it will, but like, I think there were wars on Jabim during the Clone Wars, and I think Obi-Wan was in those battles on Jabim. I would love just a flashback to the Clone Wars at some point. If they do a second season of the show, just like put Anakin in the brown,
robes.
Yeah. And then
those
guys both look pretty young still. Like I really don't think it's gonna look all that different from.
So I watched the 5-minute prequel recap that they have as part of the extras on this, because I had a little time to kill before we got started today. Ewan McGregor looks pretty young, even as like Revenge of the Sith.
They age him up a little.
Yeah. I was like, all right, that's what the next 6 years of my life I have to look forward to. But I mean, of course they're making him look older in this show, because he's got this pretty steep aging curve that he's got to achieve. In over 20 years, he has to essentially age 40 or look like he aged 40. So
he's more like the crow's feet, sort of like they put more on there. His
face is ruddier. I mean, obviously the beard is unkempt, the hair is wild, Be nice if he gets a haircut at the end of the show. Is that too much to ask for?
Yeah, maybe. He could, or he could get it in season 2 or season 3. Like that's the thing
was
is like
kidding,
I like long
no.
hair.
I agree. Like they have this. Part of me literally thought when they were burning him last week, I'm like, oh, that's how they're going to explain his aging.
Oh yeah,
Because he just got like, he just got a little crispy.
yeah.
The planet has temperate but inhospitable climate that continually experience storms that could interfere with sensor devices.
It has a long history in the
I'm looking at Legends.
Yeah, and you're right. There was
in Legends.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to borrow from that,
There's
and you're absolutely. They're not going to They're not. If you're going to claim that planet that actually has that big of a history in the EU, you're going to have to treat it as if it exists as the way it did in the EU. And you're right. It did show up in the Clone Wars, old EU Clone Wars. Obi-Wan was on there. You had some Count Dooku on their action as well. So.
Wait, what's the significance of Jabim? Did I miss this part of the conversation?
Some Legends material.
Yeah.
Involves Jabim.
Yeah.
And why do you love this planet?
It's raining.
I don't love it. I'm just saying.
Oh, just like it's a good.
I would
candidate.
love to see a flashback of maybe the Clone Wars and like Anakin and Obi-Wan working together, and him be like, Anakin and I fought on Jabim like a long time ago. Like if
That'd be amazing.
work it in just as like a C story on the ABC, trail of episode,
which totally works because he hasn't been out in it at all. He might not even know. I think he knows he's there, right? They do mention he's there where he's at, but like he's in the base. He's not out in the atmosphere at all in this episode. So once he gets out,
it was so much fun to do like in Thrawn Alliance.
I don't know.
Yeah,
the one where it's like
they're great, but those
Thrawn
names
sort of like
help.
Thrawn is experiencing both Anakin and Vader at different times in his life, and but he's kind of like blending the two and thinking about the past during the present, and it makes perfect sense that Obi-Wan might just dwell on the past for just like he has been getting these little glimpses. Like it wouldn't surprise me to work in some fun stuff with Hayden. Like I almost like them bringing back Hayden like it hasn't really shown yet.
Hasn't paid off yet.
It hasn't paid off yet.
No.
And I'm waiting to see.
And they teased it last episode.
In a fun way.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many ways you could do it, and it's so exciting that he's a part of the project. I just hope we get to see more of his face.
So, what he's done so far has been amazing. Like his face in the back tank is menacing and perfect, and then that one creep shot in the field, like great.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
But Grant, I'm with you. I'm like, why name check this planet that has this history in the old EU? Like, you could just name it any planet, right, and not take advantage of that. Because part of me is like wondering is if like they know the Empire's coming, they have to evacuate, and Obi-Wan flashes back to a mission that they had there. He's like, I know the perfect place to hide, right? And so basically, you have him flashing back to that story because there's a cave system they were fighting in or something. You know what I mean? Like you could totally have it organically happen that way.
I would lose my mind if that happened. Like suddenly you're back there with clone troopers and like, Cody is there and Rex is there and they're, in a cave and like, it's like live action Clone Wars for one scene. Like, that would be amazing.
Right. Because Devil's Advocate would be, that's a little too much to put in the show,
Sure.
Given that the show you only get
2 episodes.
But I think the rule is if it moves the plot forward, then it works.
There's a lot to do in real time though in this fifth part 5. Like he's got Leia. He's got to be monitoring Leia the entire time. Like it's the whole.
They're gonna have to defend Jabim, right?
I know.
Yeah. My argument back is that this episode was 33 minutes long. Make the next episode 43 minutes long, and do a 10-minute flashback. And then you get your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
I do like the flashback work they've been doing in the show. So.
Yeah. I just don't know why you don't use Hayden as
just give me more
Anakin.
Hayden. I don't know, like
Vader. Yeah.
Well, I don't know because I don't know I also don't know what that is. I've never seen it before. They haven't really given Hayden the spotlight in a long time, and so I don't know what that looks like.
That's what they need to though.
Disney
I feel
era. I haven't seen the Disney treatment of the true Anakin Skywalker, the one George's casted Anakin Skywalker. I haven't seen what Disney has to do with that.
It's Filoni's thing, and it's interesting at the end in the credits, like pretty early in the credits, it's like a special thank you to Dave Filoni.
Yep.
Which is just like it's everything, probably because he was just around, I guess.
But
and
still,
like giving his input. But like,
See,
they
I
break him
think we're
every
going
episode,
back to Order
so-
66, guys. I really do think Reva might bump into
I
a
agree.
fallen Anakin Skywalker and then
Yeah.
do
No, I
something
agree.
to,
That
like,
story's not done telling. That's why I think she is.
That would be
has-
wild. That would be
Yeah.
awesome if he shows up as like a flashback. In
That's some of
Order
the
66.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's a tough scene for a lot of people. I know there's people struggling with that sort of content. But at the same time, it's
Well-
it's a pretty dark, disturbing performance from the Anakin Skywalker character. That it's it's meaty acting for Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
And it's a Hayden Christensen like we haven't seen before, where they're really going with the sort of like possessed by the dark side Hayden Christensen, and that is scary. And like he's basically a horror character.
Exactly, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
You just treat it as Reva alone, and you treat it like Newt from Aliens.
Mhm.
She is in the ducks running away from the horror monster, and Vader is chasing her, and that's why Vader takes her to the Inquisitors, because it's the only youngling who survived, right? And so this is the one that we will change,
Or
we will corrupt.
Yeah, because I mean, there's numerous things that could happen if you continue that flashback at the temple. Like the Grand Inquisitor was a guard there. Like I don't see why she couldn't run into him. Maybe
Right.
Oh, that would be wild.
There you go. Yeah,
there's
both
stuff
men get
like
taken.
that. And then thanks to Dave Filoni. I mean, we know in Rebels we see that whole story. Why not play with that a little further? There's other things you could do there. That's super fascinating.
Actually, it would be interesting if you sort of got a casting call in Order 66 of all the people that like became Inquisitors. You know, like her thrown in a room with the Grand Inquisitor. Like, I forget the one from. Sarah Junda could be there, and you know, I don't know, but that would be a fun reference to Fallen Order, is like some of those Inquisitors as when they're still Jedi.
You know, I think you. Adam, I think you hit the nail on the head, because I think you get Sheev Palpatine. That footage on the holo recorder on the archives that Yoda and Obi Wan look at.
Yeah.
That footage is in the Jedi Temple after Order 66. It's like separate from the Senate, from Palpatine's office. It's separate from that holo recording, right? It's a different thing.
Yeah, it's in the library,
the temple, right?
It's in the temple. It's in the Jedi Temple.
So does she? So whoever survives this just horrific tragedy, wouldn't it be Palpatine who kind of like walks among the survivors and decides who survives and does all this kind of like disturbing sort of like controlling, you know, the pulling the strings of the entire tragedy?
Yeah.
And there you go. There's your Palps, and it's the creepiest Palps. It's the Palps that like has that really like deep kind of like diaphragm sort of like resonant sort of voice. It's just the scariest version of Palpatine.
I would love it, and you might be right, because they are not pulling any punches when it comes to the dark side in this show. Like Vader is the most terrifying we've seen Vader. So
yeah, it's great to see as much dark side stuff as we've seen, or Imperial stuff as we've seen it.
Yeah,
it's rare to come by in live action, and it's really
true.
fun. I love the bureaucracy. I love all.
We know Palpatine's an evil manipulator, so he probably generates the rumor mill around people. And if they're all looking down on Reva and saying she's the least of them, maybe it's because Palpatine was like, this one has light in her, or the most light in her, the one who spread that rumor in the first place. You know what I mean? And
to break her down. Yeah,
he would sense the light in someone. You know.
Yeah, you said that at the beginning, I think, in the first episode, Grant, and I think that's been sticking in my head. It could be.
Now that Adam's like, Palps could pop up, and I'm like, you're totally right. I think it's weirdly guaranteed at this point, because Ian McDermott's such a brilliant actor, and he's so involved that like.
Yeah, I literally at this point, I'd be more surprised if he doesn't show up than if he does.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm also, by the way, fine if he doesn't show up, because the show doesn't feel like it's missing him, if that makes sense, because of the way it's being told. But I'd be
doesn't
shocked
need
if he
cameos.
Surprise. No, for sure.
I'm having a blast watching the show, guys.
Me too.
Talking about it, responsible speculating, just generating ideas, chatting about fun outcomes.
All coulds, no shoulds, as we say.
Exactly, and it's all what if, and at the end of the day, I think we just love what's this show, and Deborah Chow's crushing it. I hope she gets all the Star Wars.
Agreed. Yeah.
I need to get myself a directed by Deborah Chow shirt, because that's a shirt I could invest in.
Yeah,
it's so good.
That's this is my favorite part. I mean, in this series, I think has done it better than any series, which is like week to week, there's so many mysteries to sort of unpack and talk about. And I love to just guess what might happen next. Because there's so many in this show, there's so many ways it could go.
Also because
entertaining and fun.
Exactly. I don't mind being wrong because I'm so happy with what they're giving us, right?
Yeah,
like I just like
always.
I never would have thought that we would have gotten Obi-Wan infiltrating the Castle Inquisitorius, right? Never would have been one of my, even after seeing it in the previews, I never would have thought that happened. And it happens in the show, and I don't blink an eye. Meaning I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. Totally. Yeah. Like, I'm on board. Got it.
I was like, let's go. I did do my power slide across the living room floor when he was deflecting blaster bolts from both sides.
I figured you would.
Nice.
Yeah. I think it was back. Yeah, dude. I was like, you're back, baby. Let's go. But it was also because it was very prequel. Like that was another definite prequel and homage. Like I had him like deflecting the destroyer droid blaster bolts, and he's like, and it was from both sides. And another sort of I don't know. They did do a sort of joke where one of the stormtroopers accidentally shoots the probe droid behind Obi-Wan, and he's like, really?
Yeah. It's great. It's such a great little moment. It's such a great little bit of business. Yeah. It's real good.
This was a super fun episode because again, I'm a fanboy and I just want to see Obi-Wan do some Obi-Wan stuff, and it's like it's like the reverse monster. It's the light side monster, right? That he's just he's getting stronger and stronger.
But it's also such a slow burn of an episode because as I was watching it, I'm like, coming down from episode 3. Where I'm like, oh, this is what we're going, and then suddenly it just builds and builds and builds and builds, and it just becomes this action movie at the end, which I was not expecting from the way it started.
Which is very much the pace of Rogue One.
Yeah,
where
totally.
It's got to set the table and set the stakes, and then it's like boom, action.
Yeah.
Just ramps. All right, well, we did it. This was a really fun episode. Again, thanks very much for listening to us talk about this. We'll do it again next week. Again, we're trying to get this out as close to the release of the episode as possible, so everyone can get their spoiler Jones on. Hope you're enjoying it, and hope you're enjoying this podcast. Reach out to us on the socials. Discord is open. We've got a link tree on Instagram and Twitter that you can hop on any of our things. But we're talking about, we got a spoiler channel on Discord. We're talking about this, talking about everything that's coming through. So,
and that spoiler channel is hot because Grant and Ben always watch it before I do, because I always watch it Wednesday night. So I was just like, well, enjoy the Discord. Take it off chat.
Lots more probably irresponsible speculation happening.
It plants a seed.
It's walls of text about Jedi and lore. It's just super fun. I love jumping on the Discord after watching one of these episodes, just breaking stuff down with you guys. That's super fun for me. So I love being there and doing that. Our Twitters are being more active on Twitter these days, and we'll give a shout out to people, and we'll reach out to other podcasts around, and we love Star Wars. It's great. So the Star Wars community is always fun. Can't wait to see what happens down the road.
Yeah, our Star Wars community is always fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And open and free and welcome to all. So thanks very much for listening to us this week. We'll talk to you next week, and as always, may the Force be with you.
This is Grex Kondak signing off. For the latest breaking news, follow @CoreWorldNews on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you and good night.
Remember, the Force will be with you always.